Okay, hey there, it's Rob G from FEARnet, and I am joined by Mr. Elric Kane.
Hello, Rob.
And welcome back, Rebekah McKendry.
I have missed you guys so much.
We missed you.
Yeah, it's just 2 weeks without you guys. It was just too long.
It happened. She had Marnie. We're very excited.
I did.
I was so excited that I brought like a book bag full of booze. I'll take a picture of this
Really,
and
you guys
post
look
it
like
online.
a bunch of alkies here.
And then Rebekah's like, I can't have alcohol yet.
Percocet.
So.
I'm totally on Percocet right now because I got sawed in half to get Marnie out. So, yeah.
That's right.
I probably
Surgery.
shouldn't chug a whole bunch of Jameson while I'm sitting here.
But Elric and I will
let's
do it
do
in
it.
your honor. So here's a shot.
Here's to your health.
Salute to you and Marnie. Thank you.
Oh,
Welcome
thanks,
back.
guys. They're totally taking shots. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that is so sweet. You're getting drunk for me.
Well,
That's
We'll
how you
use
get girls, kids.
I'll use you as an excuse this time for getting drunk, but
Last week it was just that we had gummy bears, or that was a couple weeks ago. So.
I'm out of gummy bears. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll be bringing beer next week because I'll be off of the booze or the Percocet. And so, I need something else to numb me up a bit.
Good. Excellent. So, I mean, it's been a couple of weeks now since we've gotten together, at least the three of us.
Yeah.
And we always kick it off with what we've seen. Elric and I had Dave Parker on 2 weeks ago to talk about the Evil Dead remake and remakes in general. But we didn't get a chance to really talk to you about Evil Dead. We all saw it together. We know you liked it.
Yeah.
So would you like to elaborate on your thoughts?
I would actually. Evil Dead was one of the first movies. This is the remake, one of the first movies that I've seen in a long time that generally left me kind of chilled. Like there was a lot of scenes in it that I was seriously on edge for. And I never want to be one to say like I'm burned out on horror or I've gotten hard to it, but it definitely takes a lot to get me kind of chilly now. So for me to actually have some scenes like when she was in the shower and there was a few other scenes that I was just like, man, that is creepy as shit. So, sorry, crap. But censoring the words. So, yeah. But it just was a really, really good movie. I thought it was well put together. I liked the premise of While They Were There. I really liked the nuances to the original as well, with Ash's car being in the background and the removal of the hand and the inclusion of the chainsaw. There was just so many smart and clever ways that they blended the original in with the new one.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. And I, Elric and I both got to see it a second time, and I enjoyed it a lot more the second time. But then again, that's how remakes are in general, because the first time you watch it, you're always comparing it. You cannot separate it from the movie that you already know and love. But usually by the second time, it's like, all right, now let me just enjoy this as its own thing. But the thing that Elric and I were discussing before is how polarized our friends are on it.
God, there's been such a backlash in some of the horror community pissed off about this movie, just that it's horrible.
I'll tell you why it shocks me is because all I want to say to those people is like, what do you like now? Do you like anything? Because, and it's possible. Okay, if you don't like the characters of that movie or whatever, I totally would go, okay, get it. But in terms of a visceral horror film where I actually feel the pain when the characters feel pain, rather than when I watch a Saw film or something, I'm just watching someone be hurt and feeling nothing. In this film, when the guy hits the toilet, I like literally jolt back going, oh, because that's something that could happen to you, And so to me, I watched it with two. I watched it with Matt Curry Holmes and Tracy Morrison. The two of them were jumping. They were giddy like schoolgirls, jumping out of their seats at everything. And I kept turning to them going, remember why you loved horror films? Remember that feeling in the 80s as a kid of why you loved this in the first place? That's the first time I felt that in years. Definitely years. Doesn't mean it's the best horror film in years. It's just the first time I felt that exact feeling that I had when I fell in love with this stuff.
Exactly.
And it's definitely about the viscerals. It's definitely what it is. I know it's not really about the character. It's about like the form, the way it's put together, the way it all feels.
Yeah.
And that to me was exciting. But people who I really respect just flat out hated it. And they're all like, oh, I'm so angry about this, such a letdown. I'm like, so to me, I want to know what they think, but I'm also like, I don't know if I trust that,
Well, it's like, what do you want at this point? I don't know what else.
Because,
we just can't make you happy, can we?
Like when you say it's bad, do you mean like as bad as the last Saw film? Or do you just mean bad compared to the first Evil Dead? Because it's, I'm trying to figure out what they mean by bad.
I do know, because Elric and I saw it together. We were sitting together at the press screening. And Rob, I think you were a couple of rows behind us. Yeah. There were three guys directly behind me and Dave. And they were talking the entire time about how it wasn't funny. And so they were obviously expecting it to be a remake of Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness in that same kind of, splatstick vein. So I'm wondering if that isn't what's doing it. But some of the people in the horror industry that I know are so pissed off about it are people that should know better.
Yeah.
That should know it's not going to be funny.
Yeah, we went opening night to like a super ghetto theater in Los Angeles to see it.
Ghetto theater in Los Angeles?
We wanted that theatrical experience with a regular audience. And it was a bunch of the horror directors, including Dave, who was our guest to talk about it. And I don't think, honestly, I don't know if any of them liked it. Now, the sound completely sucked at the theater, which everyone's like, well, that's the least of its problems. I was like, you know what? That's a big deal. If you're not in a pristine kind of, I don't like seeing movies at
our sound
theaters.
guy, Justin Cruz, is heavily agreeing with you back there.
He's like blushing at this point.
No,
he's like, hell yeah.
The sound and visuals of this film are exceptional.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't like this film, you go, visually, it's beautiful. It's a beautifully shot little film,
But I was sitting with Sean Keller, and he made a very valid point because he's like, I think I liked it, but I need a day to stew on it. And then the next day he's like, you know what? It's good and all, but it's just not for me.
See,
it's for teenagers.
Sean Keller, I like his taste usually.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. He's like, look, it's a cool movie. I don't think I'll ever see it again. But he's like, it's for my kid. It's for teenagers. And most horror movies are for teenagers. When we all saw the original Evil Dead, we were teenagers. So it's like, I'm sure adults when we were teenagers probably thought Evil Dead was silly or depraved or sick or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but what do they watch now? This is a bigger question. We're going to be talking about 80s and VHS. And I think here's the question. Are they interested in any modern horror films? Because what are we going to compare that to? Like, what are they sitting around going, oh, yeah, I mean, fucking Sinister is the same thing. I'd love to, if somebody hated Sinister, hated Evil Dead, I'd start to go, well, could you like a modern horror film?
Maybe they're just into like weird indie stuff.
Maybe. I mean, this is what I want to know. I wish we had someone here I could ask who hated it, so I could be like, I just want to understand.
Okay, horror industry, somebody get on our Facebook page. Tell us why you hate Evil Dead, the remake.
Oh, boy.
There are things I didn't like about it.
By the way, go to our Facebook page.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
It's not perfect, but it's perfect.
By any means.
But it did a perfect job, if that makes sense to me.
The thing that I liked the most of it is that it was obviously directed by somebody who knew effects and how effects are executed really, really well. And so the set pieces that it established with the effects were so well done on camera. It was just, that was my favorite part, was the effects, because the effects became the plot in a way. And that's what I loved about it. It was just so visceral and gory.
Yeah.
And what else did you guys see besides Evil Dead, obviously?
I didn't see. Well, I went to Days of the Dead. I know you were sick.
Oh, right, at the convention. Yeah, I wanted to go.
Becca was doing birth. And so...
Whatever.
Driving down there, I regretted it instantly. I'm driving downtown.
LA,
I already regretted it.
God.
And it was a, you pull up and you're surrounded by ice hockey fans as they're exiting a game, and you're just like, why did I come down here? Yeah. And I got to say, I don't want to hate on it because anyone who gets a chance to go to a horror festival is going to have a good time, or a convention. But if you've been to a few, it kind of just blended into all the rest. It just depends on who you're there to see. Mm-hmm. For me, I had a best friend who is a huge Dick Miller fan, and I woke up that morning going, I'm going to get him, and it's his birthday a couple of days, I'm going to get him a signed autographed picture of Dick Miller, whether it kills me getting down there. So I reached my goal. I had a really fun getting to meet him. But really, I'll tell you one thing. Compared to Monsterpalooza, the reason why a lot of them fade in comparison is because Monsterpalooza is actually celebrating something.
Yeah.
So celebrating the art of horror and makeup and creature design. And I always think that's incredible. And then around that, you have signings,
Yeah.
When you go to one of that's just about signings and merchandise, I just, if you've been to one,
exactly.
And so it's not a negative on them. And I wouldn't say I didn't, but for me, I was just like, whatever, But I did, as I was telling you guys, I had somebody came up to me saying that they loved the show, and you're probably listening right now. So thank you. That was really cool.
Thank you.
In front of Dick Miller, when you came up to me saying that you recognized me from an audio show is hard to believe.
Yeah.
That was really neat. And there's a couple of the guy who made the bunny game was sitting there with his own booth, and I thought, well, maybe he's going to be on the show one day. So
yeah, we'll get him on
we'll
eventually.
see. Maybe if we see the film. I haven't seen the film yet.
Oh, it's a film.
Yeah,
it's a movie.
But I missed Roddy Piper, so by the time I got there, he'd gone upstairs. So that was the downside, because I'm a big They Live fan, which we'll tie into later in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Besides that, I saw Evil Dead again, and that was,
You saw Stoker, didn't you?
I saw Stoker a couple weeks
ago.
ago.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
See, I'm totally behind on everything.
Yeah, the
but
only
I did
movie,
like Evil Dead more.
The only movie I want to bring up is, and only because it's a fun story that ties into Elric, is I rewatch. I haven't seen it in like a decade, but Basket Case 3, which I won at Trivia Night, by the way.
That is awesome.
That's fun. I love the first one. It's one of my favorite
awesome.
horror movies. Part 2, I also kind of love because it's so weird. It also has my favorite horror sequel ending ever. I don't think you could top the ending.
I don't even remember it.
I don't want to spoil it for people, but we'll talk about it after.
Okay.
It's my favorite ending to a horror sequel.
Okay, I got to watch it again.
Done. And then, 3, I just don't remember, but Frank Henenlotter, the writer-director, all of them, always like kind of talk smack about 3, how it's just terrible. Oh, don't even watch it. It's terrible. So I kind of thought it was all right. And I think Elric commented on me on Twitter while I was watching it. So I just got his for some reason we didn't have each other's phone numbers. Right, yeah. So I immediately texted him instead of replying on Twitter. And he's like, you know what? I didn't have your number and I didn't recognize it, but it was about Basket Case and I immediately knew it was you.
Well, Basket Case 3.
No, 3.
That's how I knew it was you. If it was about 1, I would have been confused.
Yeah, but it was about Basket Case 3. So
Any
I knew it was
completist.
Rob G's number.
If it's a completist, I know he's at the other end of that.
Right. So, yeah, and you know what? It was fun. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not as good as 2.
Or the weird penis creature that he created in his what's the other film?
Brain Damage?
Yeah, Brain Damage.
What's
that character's name?
Elmer.
Elmer's incredible.
Sorry,
Elmer's
it's
such
with
a
an A. Elmer.
Yeah, Elmer. Yeah, that film is so strange. I only saw that for the first time about a year ago, and it was like, wow,
that
is a strange
is the voice of Elmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
That's right. We talked about that.
I don't think he knows who that is. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Well, only because of the trivia night.
Oh, okay.
I looked it up. It was one of the questions.
That's one of my favorite movies. Brain Damage. It's definitely strange, but that's one of my faves.
Well, that caught us up, I guess, on what we've seen. I mean, we've got, was there anything else? That was everything.
No. I want to. I'm actually
VHS.
really excited. We got a really good topic, and I'm staring at a stack of Blu-rays that make me very happy.
Well, I do have to say the one thing that this week, because I've been on maternity leave for the past week, I've been watching. Well, my mom's been there, so I've been watching a lot of what I call horror light because she really likes She loves horror, but she likes the supernatural films. So, we watched Possession and we
Vampire
watched
Diaries, Secret Circle.
So yeah, so it's been like my horror light week when I'm catching up on all the week stuff. But my mom screams and gets really excited about it. But I've been watching because I've been kind of stuck at home and with stitches and not moving too much. I'd been watching The Cult on Hulu, which is the show that was on the CW, and I had gotten totally into it, and they just announced this morning that they canceled it.
Oh, you told me you were getting into it. Oh, that
angry.
sucks.
I liked
for
it.
you.
I hate to say it because I know I know some of the directors of The Following, so I hate to say it, but I liked The Cult better than The Following.
Right,
wow.
And then they
actually
canceled it.
I hate that's the worst feeling when you do connect to a show and you just doesn't have a chance.
I'm so angry because I'm like, I don't get any ending now.
Before we move on, I realized because you brought up TV and The Following and Bates Motel, but we've talked about Hannibal. We didn't.
Oh,
Did you catch up yet?
Yeah, because the first episode is on iTunes for free right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I was really impressed. I thought it was really nicely made. I don't know where it will go. The thing I liked about it was the characters were equally interesting, and I feel like with The Following, that's not the case. I feel like, I'm curious about Kevin Bacon's character. The serial killer kind of character is a bit of a cliche or whatever. And whereas with Hannibal, I was like, well, they've picked the cop character, Will Graham, is as dark, if not darker, potentially, than the Hannibal character who's just, he's already just who he is. He's already the serial killing character that we kind of know he'll grow into. But I don't know. I was pretty interested in it. I don't really know what the show will be like. If it becomes a buddy cop, I would be worried. But I don't know. I thought it was very well made because David Slade directed it. I thought it was beautifully directed.
Yeah.
And Mads Mikkelsen's one of the best actors in the world right now.
Yeah, he was great in it,
Yeah, the accent took me a few seconds to go, just to kind of reboot the thing. But I don't know. I was interested. I'll definitely. I feel like The Following for me was running out of steam a little. And Bates Motel is still interesting. I think the performances and the story is still good.
Yeah, I'm a little mixed on Hannibal because the first episode's really good.
Oh, you've seen more?
No, I haven't. I mean, that's the thing. Other people that I know that have seen a few more have said, "Oh, we'll just keep watching." Because from the first episode, it was cool, but it was kind of just procedural,
right,
CSI kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right. But
there was a great scene where he picked up the phone and said, "You'll never meet me, but you should leave."
Yeah.
I thought that was
good.
pretty. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Code of Brothers.
So anything else? TV or
no? I think that's all the big hard TV, right?
Yeah, I have a ton of stuff I have to catch up on next week after my family leaves, and I can get back to my normal sick viewing routine.
Pleasure,
nice.
I just can't pop in Nazi exploits of the SS
Why
camp
not?
in love while my parents are there. I just feel horrible.
But there is good news on nunploitation news because
Mike Mendez
is coming back to your
the convent.
He's coming back to your world.
Prequel.
I you guys know I do love my nunsploitation, so I'm kind of psyched when I read about that.
Yeah.
So. Excellent.
So I mean, so the stack of DVDs or Blu-rays that I referenced is a bunch of titles from Scream Factory / Shout Factory, and with us is Jeff Nelson, who is the director of marketing. Correct?
Hey guys. Yep.
Welcome aboard. Jeff also runs the Scream Factory Facebook and Twitter.
Yes.
So he is the one that posts all those cool images and those surveys and all that fun stuff that you get to do on social networking with Scream Factory. So
tell him what you would like to see most on there. I'm sure he loves that.
That's what he wants.
Yes. And please give me another request.
Is there one title that you get the most, like even if it's not
my
possible
God.
to even get?
You know what? Off the top of my head, there are a lot of titles that come easily to mind that fans want. John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, I think, leads the pack.
Yeah.
We did have a poll where I took like probably 10 of the titles that were most requested and said, hey, in order, which ones do you want? And Prince of Darkness is number one.
Wow.
We're working on it.
Cool.
I'll just say that.
Okay.
I would say Fright Night Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Gets a
yeah.
lot
I
of
love that film. I think
lot
that's so
of
much
stuff.
The
fun.
guy's full of bugs, right?
I
Am
never
I
s-
remember that?
Friday Night 2?
Friday Night 2 is the one with the female coming back, the sister of the vampire killed in the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
one.
I swear there's a scene where he gets cut and maggots pour out. But I haven't seen Fright Night 2 since it first came out. But I have vivid memories of that scene. So
Much more attractive lead female character in that one than the first
Yes.
one. That's the big improvement on the franchise.
We also have we get a lot of requests for Without Warning. Do you remember that?
Oh
one?
my
the
God.
With the
alien.
alien that throws pizza tentacle things. And
I'm surprised you get a
leashes
lot
on
for
it.
that, though.
We
That's
get
interesting.
A lot.
That
That
of
was
requests
never
for that.
released to DVD, was
No,
it?
I guess that's why.
And that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons. And it's
cool.
owned by MGM, and we have a lot of releases through MGM. And
Interesting.
so people are like, well, where is this one? And we're like,
Cool.
just
I have
Right.
a horrible
Hold on,
bootleg
you know.
copy of that. I would love to have a Blu-ray.
Yeah, I would love to have it too,
on,
to be
Matt.
quite honest.
Actually, the ones I'm most excited about that you just announced, literally just this week, you're
Yes.
doing the first 3 Amityville Horror movies.
That's really
Oh,
cool.
hell yeah.
Yes.
And I'm going to request now on behalf of all the fans, I'm saving up for a 3D TV, so please, Amityville 3D and 3D. I got to have it.
All I can say is, as I said yesterday, I have to carefully say this. We will provide more details in the summer, but duly noted that Amityville 3D, the people want it in 3D.
That is a true marketing
Well,
response.
It's kind of not. It's kind of not interesting any other way. Well, let's be candid. So
You know what? I enjoy all 3 of them for what they are. 1 is my favorite, of course. 2 has such a following. The response on it yesterday, just from 2 alone, and people knew the actors and the characters and all
Yeah,
the
it's fun.
stuff.
It's fun.
Was great. But 3, yes, people are just kind of like, there was a tagline for the poster that says, in this movie, you will be the victim. And somebody posted that tagline couldn't be any more appropriate for this movie because it is bad. But we'll see what we can do with the 3.
Well, and my favorite revenge, it's not horror, but my favorite revenge film of all time, which I've been dying to finally come out in America,
where you're going.
Rolling Thunder,
yeah.
is one of the best films, period.
Drew
And
Daywalt
so-
and I have had long discussions.
Just
about
love that film.
Well, you know,
We love it.
even though it's not in the Scream factor,
Right.
this is where it gets interesting. Shout, has always been very cult film and stuff like that too. With the Scream line, all of our horror and quasi horror films go in there. Rolling Thunder didn't quite make that Scream Factory cut, but we will promote it there because there's a lot of people that just have the
Crossover.
same
Yeah.
crossover.
It's like one of Tarantino's favorite films. He
Totally.
named
Oh, yes.
one of his companies is releasing.
Cliff McMillan, who's not here, who's the DVD producer, was able to get a interview with Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, wow.
So
Cool.
Oh, my gosh.
that's really good. And
He's so
William
good in
Devane
that.
and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really good disc, even though it's not a part of the
And it took
Quest
so
family.
long to get out. Like it's just has never been.
Well,
a
you
good
know what?
there was like
It
an
came-
MGM limited,
Right.
but
It came
Right.
out as an
Right, I remember that, yeah.
MOD, not really a DVD kind
Yeah.
of release. And, people are just very particular, like, well, that feels like a fake DVD.
Yeah.
So, we were only able to get a Blu-ray rights, but
Right.
I mean, it looks fantastic.
Well, the thing that kills me in living here is that great things will always come out in the UK that
Yes.
haven't come out here. So you'll be like a year ago, Rolling Thunder's on Blu-ray, and you're like, oh.
Well, you know what's funny is, again, I man the Facebook page, and we have definitely a pocket of fans in the UK, and they're really bummed because on the reverse side, they can't get the stuff. Our
Yeah, you guys are
stuff
doing
is
special
Region
stuff.
A locked. We wish we could have international rights or region free, but financially we can't.
Right.
So they're always like, sign
Yeah.
like,
Well, you guys are doing a lot more than just the movie. You guys are going all out with the extras,
Right.
and that's a
Right.
big deal.
and the other one I wanted to mention because it's by far one of my favorite movies is I Come in Peace,
AKA Dark Angel.
Dark Angel,
Yes.
which you've never seen it
I've
with
never
Dolph
seen that film.
Lundgren.
Either.
Oh
I
my
Dolph
god!
Lundgren?
Down.
Dolph
Yes.
Lundgren?
Can I just tell you something? Because I still own the VHS of it, and Dark Angel is available as one of those MGM DVDRs. But this is actually one of the motivating factors that I moved to Los Angeles for. I was
because of Dolph Lundgren.
Yes, yes. Because I was visiting. I was in town one weekend for a Fangoria Weekend of Horror show. And I found out the New Beverly was doing a Dolph Lundgren festival.
Wow.
It was 5 of his movies in a row.
You seem way too excited about this. Like
wait.
Rob's like animated.
Was Johnny Mnemonic one of them?
No, come on, let's get serious.
Okay, good.
Here's what. Listen to this lineup. So I left Fango early and jetted down there. I missed the first movie, which was Red Scorpion, but I got there in time for Universal Soldier. And then they showed Rocky IV, which was like being at a boxing match. Everyone was going nuts.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
Then Mark Goldblatt, the director of The Punisher, showed up with his director's cut of it, which is awesome. And then the final midnight movie was I Come in Peace, or Dark Angel, because it was a European print of it. And that theatrical experience of seeing those 5 movies was
You sat there for 10 hours to watch Dolph and
Yeah.
like everything.
Good Lord.
Oh my God. But it was such an enjoyable experience.
Lend me your ears.
It was kind of like, I just felt like I love
only line I know.
I love the New Beverly and the fact that they would do this.
Oh, yeah, they're
so
cool.
I
They're
need
the
to
best.
move here.
Yeah.
So that was kind
That's
of
awesome.
there you
That's
go.
cool.
Yeah. But yeah, they're doing I Come in Peace. They just announced it, and it's a kind of a sci-fi alien movie where
it's a quasi. You know, it's when Scream Factory started, it was just flat out like horror slasher. Maybe you had like They Live or something, and then we got into Ninja 3: The Domination,
Yeah,
which
which
I know
is
you
so
guys
obscure.
want to
No,
talk
it's amazing
about.
that you released that. It's so
That
obscure.
and Dark Angel came in, and I was like, well, these kind of toe the line, and we're getting a good response in Scream Factory. So I put Ninja 3 to a vote to this. The Facebook fans to say, do you want this as a Scream Factory fan? It would have come out either way, whether it's Shout or Scream, but we put it there. And so I was like, all right, well, if they're going to accept that, let's put in Dark Angel too.
Nice.
I know that everybody knows it. Some people know it as I Come in Peace.
Yeah.
We'll have the reversible cover that has I Come in Peace.
I'm going to
So
switch
there-
it
there
as soon
you
as I
go.
buy
I'm
it.
going to watch it. We're going to have a party. We're going to all watch it
I'll
together.
bring my VHS over.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. We have a VHS.
Yes.
We'll-
It's amazing.
Wait, doesn't he have a new copy that we can watch that's not on VHS?
It's not out. When is it coming? Later in the year, right?
It is coming out in late summer.
Okay, yeah. They
I can
just
wait.
announced it. Yeah.
We-
All right, let's
I'm
wait for
very
the Blu-ray.
patient. I'm
We're
very
watching
patient.
VHS
Well,
this weekend.
we've soft announced it, and then and we'll make a sort of a bigger splash on it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think
All right, fair enough.
Cliff let that one out of the bag. So
I mean, let's talk a little bit about VHS in general, the nostalgia before then getting maybe more specific on Shout stuff because I'm curious. Also, one thing I wrote down, I wanted to know I love these everyone's first like real VHS horror memory. Like you remember that first time because we're kids that it didn't exist until we were a certain age. You know?
Yeah, we were really lucky, I feel, because most of us are within the same age group, and I feel like we were, and that's part of what I love about the Scream Factory releases. I feel like they're trying to capture that feeling that when the video stores were
certainly
booming,
are.
And we were discovering these titles for the first time. It's just there's something so it's something so indelible about it to all of us and why we like these movies as much as we do. So that's part of the reason that we chose this topic.
And artwork is part of that. I mean, by mixing up the artwork, it's a way of giving us a new interpretation of something we already know, but also saying, but we also know you like
the original.
The thing is, we like to I always call it it's like think of the new covers as a remix, but you're gonna have the original track. In our thing too.
Yeah,
and I'm very particular when the creative comes to me and I'm looking at that reverse art. I'm like, no, the tagline doesn't need to have a period. That's not what it was like in the original theatrical poster. No, title needs to be up here. No, we need to do this. Like I'm trying to look out for the fan myself and the other fans that will. And I see it on Facebook, nitpick it and go, well, why didn't you do that? But yeah, no, I mean, we totally grew up on that kind of stuff. I remember going to my dad's on the weekend and renting like 5 horror films at the local VHS store and literally starting at 5 p.m. and then staying up till 5 a.m. watching just horror films all over the weekend. And that was just my thing. You know what I mean? And I think my parents thought that I would outgrow it, but obviously they were very wrong.
So your parents, your dad was okay with you renting horror films and stuff. Like how old were you around this time?
Totally funny is that, yes, my dad was great with it, but my mom, and they were divorced, was not. So I think it was a little bit of a power play. Like it was like, I'm the cool dad, and my mother's like, But I was, 10, 11, and 12, and then it just kind of, I remember listing them. I remember thinking, well, I'm going to do the world's record and watch all the horror films. Like, I mean, you get that when you're a teenager and you're living in a small town in Vermont like I did. That's kind of what you just
and it's before the internet. It's like
totally.
So everything you discovered on your own through watching stuff, through walking into a place, looking at covers and picking.
Oh, those
there was no other way to do things. Yeah,
those covers. You just like you pick them up and you're like. But there were some covers you knew, like, okay, this is a stupid movie. It goes back on the shelf.
But my husband and I have had the discussion of we don't know how people pick out movies today.
Now it's like,
Well, I find the streaming thing hard.
They swipe the Redbox online thing, or like, you know, I mean, it's not the same.
With Redbox, you only have like 5 to pick from,
and it's all one cover. They've just ripped off the design.
Yeah, the floating heads,
the absentia design.
Or Netflix, you just have a design. You can't literally pick up a box anymore and turn it around. Like, I mean, you can go to a retail store and do it if you want to buy something, but you're right, the mom and pop rental stores, you know, they're
but like dates seem different to me because I know like when I was in high school, if a guy took me on a date, we would go to Blockbuster, we would spend half an hour picking out a video, and then we would go back to his place and watch it on his parents' couch, and that was just like the way that it was done. So like I don't know how kids watch movies now. I feel so out of the loop and old.
And then you did it.
Depended on the guy.
All right. Yeah, we know you did it with Dave. I got proof.
That was much later.
I'm, you know, the thing is I ended up working at a video store too. I think that was sort of a natural progression.
A lot of us. Yeah, a lot of us.
Did we all work at video stores?
I did.
So funny because it was
3 different times.
And, you know, and I totally would be like, you know, when the manager was away, I'm like, I'm gonna pop in the fog, and then in the background, and people would be shopping and looking up, and you know, Adrian Barbeau's getting hit by, you know, ghosts and what are you watching? I'm like, oh, it's the fog. It's okay.
Yeah. I would always put in like obscure shit that I wanted to expose people to. Like I'm putting in Murder by Death today. Somebody will get it somewhere in the store.
You know what's interesting though? Like thinking about this is I'm someone who always goes, oh, the cinema is important. Going to the cinema is important. You have a collective experience, blah, blah. And I'm always saying that these days. But then when I think about my youth, I realize I didn't see any of this in the cinema. Nope. It was all at home by myself or with good friends at night.
My town, we didn't even have a movie theater. We had a drive-in where I was, and then we had on-track video, which is where all of my debauchery came from. So
I did a mix. You know, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the theaters and see things like Terror in the Aisles or April Fool's Day or Poltergeist for the first time in the theater. I was 10.
Yeah? Oh,
it was the first horror film I saw in the theater by myself. And
That's
I was
a scary
like,
movie. The clown is...
Don't know what my dad was thinking dropping me off at the theater there, but like...
Carrie Ann?
I didn't even say that just then. I have no idea where that came from.
But I mean, again, the majority of them were just going to the store, and we also, and before VHS, there was also at the time. Do you guys remember the CED discs before laser discs? There were these record kind of contraption things that. They were called Selectivision. You guys are looking at me like
you know what?
I know what you're talking about just because my husband is big into like different media formats. So like we have a Betamax player at my house.
Okay.
We have a laser disc and he's big into those things too. And I'm just like, what the hell am I going to do with this? But we have some.
You should look them up because some go for money and they're like really old school, but imagine like a pre-laser disc and it's like a record.
But it's in
like a plastic sleeve, a hard plastic sleeve.
Oh yeah, I've seen them at garage sales.
You put them in and the record would skip and sometimes your movie
almost like cartridges. They're almost like big cartridges, bigger.
But it was like a record.
Yeah,
and that's for the movie, and you had to flip it, and it was weird.
I don't remember that format, but somebody bought me the Psycho one of that.
Oh, yeah.
So I have that. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
I'll never be able to play it.
Yeah.
But I might as well own it in every format. So what the hell?
It looks cool.
Do you remember your first VHS experience, or if it's horror VHS?
Man, the first one. I mean, the thing that was great, again, I miss the days of the mom and pop video store because there were actually 2 that were really close to me. So there was one, and I think I mentioned this in our first one, that was like up the block, and like the dude that worked there was like a punk rock dude with a mohawk, and he'd let me rent anything.
Oh, yeah, that's
you know, like it didn't matter what it was. I'd go up there with, as long as I didn't go into the little, behind the porno curtain, then I could take whatever I want. And, it's funny because it's like, there's the thing that you guys are bringing up is like the memory of the way these things used to be. Like Rebekah, you mentioned the whole date thing. To me, it's like you'd spend an hour at Blockbuster just talking to somebody about movies. Like, oh, have you ever seen this? Or what about this? Oh, this is crazy. We should check this out. And I kind of like miss that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't remember. Like, I can't even remember a specific thing, but
it's probably why we're here.
obviously.
We're probably podcasting because we miss that interactive conversation about stuff.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I was just thinking, and another thing too, which is totally different for a generation now, is think about how forbidden fruit it was for us to rent that kind of stuff back then. Literally, if it said it was rated R, your parents wouldn't take you to the theater. Like, I mean, or it was like rated R. Now, like, I mean, teenagers
you can
now
stream Human Centipede on Netflix.
Totally. I mean, it's just not even
totally.
Walking Dead is
accessible.
on TV. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, if
it's
you
not
think
taboo.
about
It's
it,
popular. It's number one.
And it was very much like, ooh, we're watching Friday the 13th Part 2.
Right.
You know, I mean, it just.
Well, we had a debate about that last week where you're talking about the week before. We talked about remakes, and we're talking about where something like Platinum Dunes, those films kind of went wrong.
Yes.
And my feeling was
Lots
that
of them
because
did.
they looked so mainstream, they looked like they're made for millions of dollars. The films we all fell in love with, they looked like they were shot in a way where we weren't meant to see them.
Yeah.
They're shot on grainy film in the woods with naked teenagers. I don't think I should be looking at this. Whereas now the movies are shot like Transformers, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even taboo, you know?
Totally.
And that
I
was,
wish I had
that's-
been there for that remake conversation. I have strong.
Yeah, of
boy.
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
That might have to be a whole nother
Right.
sequel.
I know, yeah. Well,
But in terms of video, you know what? I don't have a distinct memory, but I went through my phases. So, like, you know, my franchise phase. So it's like, of course, I was so obsessed with anything involved with like that had to do with Freddy or Jason. So by that I mean, like, of course, I freaked out when I saw the Sleepaway Camp 2 box. Because she had like
she had all the
you know, like
gloves
she had the
sticking out of the
glove
box.
and the high, you know, I'm like, oh, I have to watch that.
Total marketing.
Yeah,
You
total
fell for
marketing. Night of the Demons, you know,
yeah.
Angela's having a party, Jason and Freddy are too scared to go. And I was like, oh, but I'm not. So I'll take that.
Wow, you were easy.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. And the other one that I never got to see, but then I bought it later in life and it totally sucked. I think it was called Junior. And I'd always convince,
I haven't seen
I'd always
that
mix
one.
it up with Pieces. Pieces is a masterpiece.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
Pieces is great.
But Junior was like a dude with a chainsaw sawing through the front. And I think it said something along the lines of like, you know, he's not Freddy, he's not Jason, he's worse.
It did.
I can't remember what it was.
I remember that VHS box, and that was one that stayed on the shelf. Even as a kid, I was like,
You're savvy to
but
that.
I almost fell for that marketing that Freddy Jason thing, which actually that was Henry as well. He's not Freddy, he's not Jason,
Right.
he's real. Henry
Yep.
Porter River.
Yeah.
So if it had any of those mentions on it, I'd rent it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
No, mine was, again, we used to go to On Track Video, which was this little crappy next to a pizza shop in my hometown. And it was one of those things where my parents, grades were the most important thing in my household. And so as long as I was making straight A's, my parents would let me pretty much rent whatever I wanted. And so we would go in. And on that same note, my parents tended to pirate videos. So this is back before CopyGuard kicked in. And so we would go and we would leave with 10 videos and my parents would spend the whole weekend copying them. And so we had like a massive home library of movies. And so I would leave the video store, you know, a report card comes in, I have straight A's, I'd leave with 10 horror films and then they would be mine. I would have copies of every single one of them. And ones that I really remember, the box covers to Body Shop was one that I don't remember the film, but the box cover is, it's just parts. It's like a head and body
that
parts.
one.
Somebody pull it up
I'm gonna
on their
look
phone.
it
I remember the Carpenter Body Parts anthology.
No, this isn't Carpenter.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
That's
like
late.
Body
the
Shop.
Body bags.
Yeah, Body Bags. That was a lot
Yeah.
later, yeah.
The film or Body Shop. Yeah, Body Shop.
Hey, Body Parts is Eric Red.
Yeah, Body Shop was the name of it. And I don't remember the film, but I remember that I was so the box cover was just alluring for me. And so I always wanted to rent that one and I finally did. Also anything by Herschel Gordon Lewis, color. That's
that
the
it?
one. That is the one.
Cool.
Oh, I don't remember that
No,
one.
I never saw that.
What label was
It
that?
says
Like
the meeting
Magnum?
place for dismembers only. I've never heard of this. I
have
definitely don't
vague
recognize
memories
that
of
one.
the
Go watch the
film.
trailer now.
Paragon video.
A
Classic.
Paragon.
from the people who gave you Gates of Hell and,
Hell yeah.
and the Apple.
Yeah, I had to look it up as the
I had seen that picture
Yeah.
before, but I haven't seen the film.
the Body Shop VHS is the search I did on Google because if you do Body Shop, a whole bunch
Wow,
of
that's
There's
funny.
no DVD version, I don't
That's
think.
obscure.
Yeah.
I will give you some credit there. That's
So,
an obscure
I do
one.
like that the O's are eyeballs.
Isn't that
in
cool?
Body Shop. That's pretty cool.
Not as good as the Killer POV tagline.
we will most likely get lots of requests for that now on.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Body
Get
Shop.
ready.
So I don't remember if the film's good or not. I just remember the box cover. But like Herschel Gordon Lewis's Color Me Blood Red, I remember being completely intrigued by the box cover, had to rent that. And then after I watched that one, that got me into Herschel Gordon Lewis films, and I was just consuming any of the ones I could. Which means I watched Gore Girls way too young. And just
I was
took off
working
from
in a
there.
video store when I met the lead of Gore Girls. It's the only thing he was ever in. He's a guy who lives in Chicago, and he just walked in, and he had the highest taste. He was only into art house films. Every time we'd have long conversations about art house cinema. And then one day he walked out and the guy turned to me and goes, "You know who that is?" And I go, "No." He goes, "That's the lead actor in Gorgo Girls." I was like, "No way." Look him up. Sure enough, the only thing. And I was like, wow. It was so cool. So there's another video store reason to be in video stores.
By the time I got to this all started when I was really, really young. And by the time I got to high school, I had seen almost every horror film that they had at On Track Video. So then I was renting these just incredibly obscure things just to keep up my addiction. Yep. I can't even, there was a whole bunch of voodoo films that came out that I watched and just absolutely horrible stuff. But that's how I watched all this obscure stuff and ended up going through all the nunsploitations and Nazi-sploitations because after I burned through all the normal horror, I had to go to the weird
Shockwaves, baby. I was a big Shockwaves fan as a kid, I must say. I watch it now and it's clunky as hell and so slow. But
you have a poster of it.
I do. I have a Shockwaves poster. Shockwaves.
Oh, I love Shockwaves.
Yeah, I love Shockwaves.
Yeah.
Ken Wiederhorn.
Yes.
Ken Wiederhorn, are you listening?
So
Ken,
I'm intrigued by your story, Elric, because I wanted to know if video stores are kind of set up the same in
we don't
New
have
Zealand.
we didn't have the chains. They're all, just small. But what I was wondering, did you guys have the thing where, because most of us couldn't afford VHS players when they first hit, so the video stores would rent them to you? Okay.
I
was wondering about that.
Like, we were poor and we didn't have a VHS player, and I'm like, well, so every now and then I would, and then we finally got a VHS player.
Yeah, ours
and
had
I was
that.
Happy.
You would get 3 rentals for the weekend and a VHS player for $20 for the whole weekend. It was that's kind of how it worked at
my
first.
Parents, we bought one of the original VHS players that came out in 1980, and I swear they must have paid a fortune for it, but it was the size of a microwave.
Yeah, they were big.
And instead of just sticking the tape in the top, the entire top of the machine lifted up, and you stuck the tape in, and then you had to push the whole thing down.
And then Hal's voice came out.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, Becca. I cannot do that.
To rewind a video took almost as long as the video itself. It was an hour to rewind it.
Oh my God, I hated rewinding videos.
We had a separate rewinder that looked like a Corvette.
We had one too, and you put it in. I was like, oh, thank God. And
I calculated before the show, and this is true. Before the show, I calculated with the calculator. I have spent 3 years of my life using the tracking function.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we talk about nostalgia for VHS, I don't have any nostalgia because I was spent so long pushing a button just to see the fucking picture. So don't talk to me about, VHS is better, because I will take these Blu-rays sitting on my right any day. I'm sorry. There is no conversation.
My parents' original VHS that we had, the thing the size of the microwave, it came with a remote control, which I put in quotes just because it was still tethered to the television.
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't move more than 4 feet away from the TV. So I have pictures of me sitting on the floor holding it with a Barbie in the other hand.
Oh, that's good.
Fast forwarding. So.
I think I saw a bunch of films before this one, but the most standout memory was Alien, because all the adults in the room were cool with it, and my family, there's something wrong with them. They're all cool. I mean, we're talking super young, I don't know, 7 or 8. And my best friend who lived up the street, the same one, I got the Dick Miller signing for. So this is cool. We're still good friends.
Full circle.
I know. He's up at Stanford. His parents let him come to our house to watch it. I'll never forget this. But they, being better parents, said there's a certain scene after about 20 minutes that you have to, or 30 minutes, with the chest burst, where you have to go into the corner of their place and turn your back to the screen.
Oh,
that sounds like he would be more disturbed
After
by
you're
that.
done with this, I have to jump in on this.
Okay, so I'll be quick. I'll be quick. So here I am watching, we're watching this film where I'm already into it, and my parents had seen it. It was my mom and my stepdad. They had seen it, and I don't know how they let this happen. There's a lot of kids. That was the problem. And so suddenly a scene comes where my friend has to go into a corner and turn his back. That made this scene so much scarier. Here I am going, wait a minute, why is he there? And I kind of wanted to join him. I'm going, wait a minute. I don't even know how much I looked. And it was scary. I mean, that is a scary ass scene when you're a kid. And so I'll never forget the anticipation of seeing this person standing in the corner, and then he's allowed to rejoin us for the rest of the movie. It's gonna all be better.
You totally reminded me of that when I did rent these movies. I had 2 younger brothers, and I was so you imagine I'm 12 and they're 8 and 6 or whatever. They're sitting there watching horror films. When the murders would come up or something really shocking and new would happen, my youngest brother, Jonathan, we'd pause the film and say, "John, turn around." And it was like, why? Like, turn around. And we would force him to turn around. We would do our own self-parenting or whatever and tell him to turn around and press play and then watch the murder. And it's like, okay, you can turn around now.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, it's so
you guys
like
were good.
And it's going to be so much worse, right?
No,
like
well,
hearing shit happen is so much scarier.
Well, my dad tried to do that sometimes too. Like we were watching The Dead Zone and on cable, and the scene where the killer kills himself with the scissors, on the
yeah, that's so
bathtubs or
disturbing.
whatever.
Yeah.
He ran to the TV and like stopped, and we screamed, "What are you doing?" We're like, "You're not watching the scene." And he finally turned it on and we saw it. But I think that's where it got started from. I don't know why that just reminded me.
Yeah.
See, we're unlocking VHS memories.
But it's true. I think hearing the sounds would be more disturbing.
I think that would be more shocking to just hear the chest burster scene.
Yeah.
I think that's where the spike in serial killers in America, where all the kids who are listening but not seeing,
Yeah,
they're all
the
like,
kids in the
"Oh,
corner.
I must contain death
My
or
parents
something."
never
Yeah.
censored anything, and I'm incredibly well
Exactly.
adjusted.
Yeah. So am I. You know. Most of the time. But there was something, I don't know if it's just nostalgia. I think, well, look, it was all market driven and there was far more product being made. So therefore, the ideas were wackier for sure.
Totally.
And like people like Don Coscarelli and that were getting to make these films with more fantasy elements in the horror. We've talked about that a few times on the show where horror wasn't so straight edged. It feels very straight edge now. And
Yeah, we were talking about Frank Henenlotter earlier, and he's one that I think, was just kind of freaking out there. But during the 80s video craze, he was well supported. So.
Yeah, I mean, my number one film that, not my favorite film, but a film that I really feel is just so bizarre, and I tweeted this the other day, you might have responded, because of Brian Collins did, where I said, like, all Shout Factory have to do is release Society on Blu-ray, where it will be so icky. Like, seeing that in high definition will probably make you sick.
That is such a gooey film.
I did not reply.
Yeah. Well, somebody said good picks, but I'm thinking, but Society would be interesting.
We have had requests for that. I'm not sure who owns that one.
Yeah, it did a limited DVD release in the late 90s for about 2 months. And then
it's still very hard.
Really?
It's still
interesting.
It's now, if you want it on DVD, it's
Stuart
like
Gordon
hundreds
would
of
know
dollars.
because it's Brian Usna, so he would know at least.
It might have been Anchor Bay that did that release.
It might have been.
Yeah, I know that they
think
go
I've
for
seen
hundreds now.
It's
so.
the effects are super fun, and it fits. I mean, if it's like it fits with From Beyond a bit, but it's a good satire,
Yeah.
But Billy Warlock shunting, I don't know.
No.
It's icky though, but seeing that in HD would be kind of disturbing.
That was edited out of a lot of copies.
Oh, was it? Okay.
On the VHS. It was edited out of some of the VHS copies. I know that they did multiple releases of Society on VHS, and depending on which one you have, you don't have the shunting scene.
Yeah.
I will say that, since we're on the topic of VHS, my very first memory of like a horror VHS experience was I lived in a small town in Vermont, and going to this department store called Gaines, don't ask. And they had the horror VHSs behind like a glass sort of door in this sort of department store in the electronics section. And I was mesmerized by the covers of Prom Night, The Fog, and Halloween, this was all like 1982, right at the early stages. And I just kept looking at them, and I just kept I was fascinated by them. And it's so funny that those three films in particular are like my favorite films of all time.
Yeah, you don't hear anyone
like
going,
that.
"Oh, I looked at The Star Is Born cover, and I was just drawn to singing." I mean,
well,
it's a primal.
There are some people.
There
out
are some
there,
people,
but
there's a
it's not
primal
the same.
quality.
I don't think
Yeah.
that it's based off the cover, though. I mean, I didn't look at like...
That's the
you know,
gateway, though. The cover is the gateway. There's different levels, I think, of the addiction.
Are horror movies today, is the cover as alluring? I mean, like when you look at some of the indie companies who are really trying to push and market themselves by the cover, I don't look at them and feel the same. I want to see this.
Redbox is weird. I mean, Redbox is an interesting one, because talking to people who try to get their films into Redbox recently, they were saying that they had really cool posters designed for their film that were instantly thrown out by Redbox, and Redbox went for the key art that Absentia used, and then about 3 other films have used since. Every time you use that art, you get into Redbox. But it's, to me, there's no way I'll ever watch those films, because I see the art.
It's like the girl crawling on the floor.
And there's 3 variations on it.
Yeah,
we can't. We didn't come here to die.
We didn't come here to die.
Had to go the same way.
Who did that? I forget who did the release on that one.
Level 33. And this
then
is what I'm saying.
Absentia, which was Phase 4. So all of these different distribution companies are reusing this exact same artwork.
And they're not doing it because they want to, because I've seen their artwork for a couple of these, and they're amazing. And I was so excited, and they go, yeah, but we get reduced to this if we want to show it there. So what they're saying is that the audience is really, for the Redbox, is really generic and stupid.
Yes.
Whereas what you guys are doing obviously is very unique and nostalgic. What they're doing is like, oh, well, whatever.
Well,
you'll
you
rent
know,
those.
it's a double-edged sword because, you know, we're still trying to get some of these titles more into the mass retailers like Walmart and Target and Best Buy. It's a combination of the landscape is different. Our price point is sometimes a little higher, and they are nostalgic films that will play to some mainstream, but you know, something like From Beyond is not going to. Let's be frank.
Right. That's
it's
a
for
collector.
collectors.
That's not quite a Walmart
So,
title.
No, it isn't. You know, I'll tell you what though, if we had it at something like $7.99, it
With
would
5
probably
other titles on the same
It would
disc,
probably
yeah.
get their attention. But you know, that's why. I don't know. We're trying to get it in there because we get a lot of people asking, well, where can I buy these? And we have to say, you know, you got to go online. You got to go to
So the Halloween films don't even go there? Halloween
you
2
know,
and 3 don't?
Halloween 2 and 3 did get into Target last year.
Target,
Only
yeah.
the DVDs, though. And believe it or not, they're still there. So it's doing well for the
That's
DVDs. But the Halloween franchise is very mainstream.
Right.
But, you know, it kicks me when I'm like, well, why didn't you take in, you know, They Live? Like, and They Live did great for us on Blu-ray. But I will say that thankfully, there's stores like Amoeba, Rasputin, Fry's, Fred Meyer. You know, there's pockets of stores out there around the country that are in the independents that are taking the stuff in, and people are able to find them. There's a lot of people that still don't buy off the internet. I don't understand because
trust me, I know. I used to work at Amoeba, and
I buy online all the time, but you know, there's a lot of
Amazon?
people.
You guys are all through Amazon, right?
We're through Amazon.
Yeah, so that's where
Amazon
most
and their own
people
website.
go.
I buy DVDs anymore. Like if I'm, you know, in Hollywood driving around, maybe I swing by Amoeba, but otherwise
Right.
it's just Amazon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do kind of buy everything online at this point. Amazon. I like that you guys offer like posters and cool little incentives on the website.
You know, that was something that, you know, we want to drive awareness and traffic back to, you know, Shout Factory and stuff like that. And we thought, you know, what were some good gift with purchase items that we could do? The only Scream Factory title that we don't have a poster on, regrettably, was Halloween 2. We went to the studio and had like a nurse's hat done and everything like that with Haddonfield Memorial and everything like that. And it did very well for us, but it also required a couple more steps to getting approvals that we were like, let's just go with the posters going forward and stuff like that. The key art is always a lively topic discussion whenever the new one comes out. Fans are very passionate and very protective of their film. We all are. We love our films. We've seen them hundreds of times. And if we get the key art right in their eyes, we get nothing but love. But
What have you heard the most about? Like, which title got the most kind of reaction?
The most popular titles that went over really well was They Live.
Of course, yeah.
Did really well for them. We have an artist named Nathan Thomas Milliner who's just done some great art, and his art for The Burning recently
Oh, yeah.
was
Oh, that's
just
great.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
so gory and outrageous. And it just, when we get the new art, the way Cliff and I look at this is if it gives us sort of the wow factor, a little bit of a chill, then we're like, okay, we're good to go. Cliff and I divide the titles a little bit. You know, he'll steer one more than me or whatever like that too. But we try and look at, you know, we get the art and we're like, okay, we're good when we go with it. It's disappointing sometimes when something comes out and we see that it got mixed results or like, this doesn't, Prison unfortunately comes to mind or some other titles. But like I said, it's the remix. You don't like all the remixes, you know, and we're always going to give you the original cover. So.
Well, Burning's great because I think that's a film that can still increase its fan base. I don't think it's peaked, and I think that will only help.
That's the whole thing. You
Really
know, the
popular.
other thing too is we're all around the same age, and we know these movies very well. But there's still, you know, there's guys even in my office that are in their early 30s or later 20s or whatever like that that are primed in horror, and we get these releases, and they're like, "Oh, that looks really cool." They get really jazzed when they see the new artwork for Life Force or whatever. They don't know what it is, but they're like, "That just looks cool," and then therefore, you know, it intrigues and interest. And the collectors are always going to be, you know, the bread and butter. But believe me, if we can get more eyeballs and more sales.
Even Steve Railsback doesn't know what Life Force is yet. People are still waiting to tell him. No, it's a film you're in with vampires and... No.
We were lucky. We got him and Matilda May, who was the girl that walked around nude in that film.
Yeah, the gorgeous vampire.
Apparently, she didn't want to talk about that film for years. I don't know how we got her, but
That's cool.
Thank
That's
God.
great.
You know, we try, you know, just lightly touching upon like, you know, extras and people. we try to get talent. I think a lot of people don't understand that there's obstacles.
Yeah,
Sometimes we have a budget that we have to go on, or sometimes talent just ain't interested. And sometimes we're surprised. I can't say the title, and I won't say the director, but we did have a film where a director actually came in to do a commentary, sat down. This was after going back and forth, and then said, "I can't do this," and got up and walked away.
Oh my
And
God.
left us in a sort of like okay, I guess we don't have a director commentary. So, yes.
What was his rationale?
Nothing. Never heard. Just
didn't. It was hard for him to come to the table in the first place. And he just kind of I guess he didn't like the film.
You know, that's better than one of those commentaries where the person sits down and is silent for 10 minutes. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I remember that piece of shit.
Right.
You don't want that.
Sometimes, the thing is on the collector's editions, the ones that we deem collector's editions, those are the ones that we're doing good on time, right?
Yeah, we're going
we try to pack those as much as we can because we are calling them collector's editions. The stuff that we don't call them out, we still try to do the same sort of bells and whistles, like Town That Dreaded Sundown that's coming out as
can't wait for
that's
that.
going to be a great cover, too. I saw that.
Great cover,
Beautiful.
and, it's never been out on DVD before or Blu-ray, and I just watched it last week. Transfer looks great. Extras on it, you got Dawn Wells, Marianne herself from Gilligan's Island talking about this movie, Andrew Prine. You have, I think, a commentary. You have a whole bunch of stuff. It feels like a collector's edition, but it's not. But see, we were able to luck out because we got participation and we got within budget. People just sort of, I wish the fans could see sometimes the hurdles we have to jump over.
It's a reality series in the making.
Totally.
That would be cool.
Not easy.
Honestly, there are blood, sweat, and tears
I
that
think it'd be
go
cool.
into this, and
I can vouch for that.
Yes,
because
I know
you
you
have.
can.
You have we should mention Red Shirt Pictures, and Michael Felsher does a lot of your features. They're
Absolutely.
great.
Great.
Michael's a friend now, but I was a huge fan before I even knew him because he'd always do these great special features. Did a great documentary on the Monster Squad DVD that I remember. But yeah, because he's in Detroit, he occasionally will ask me to do some of these interviews. So I am fortunate enough to work on some of the Scream Factory stuff, and yes, I can attest that sometimes there are obstacles. Yeah, and you know what? I think it's okay. I have an interesting story about Bad Dreams, which is sitting here. That's not a Scream Factory.
A pre-Scream title, but would have been one.
It would have been one.
Had the brand,
and it could still be a Blu-ray release eventually.
That's true.
I'm a big fan.
I can't say anything.
I'm a big fan. Big fan right here.
I
would
say
buy
this
it.
on this double feature. I was a bigger fan of Visiting Hours.
Okay.
Visiting Hours.
They're
Yeah.
both good.
Oh, I
Both good.
love Visiting Hours.
Yeah,
Love.
it is a good collection. It is a good collection. But I guess I'll tell the story now. And I said it's controversial, but we did, I guess, what would be Richard Lynch's last interview ever.
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, because he passed away shortly after that. So I did all the interviews for Bad Dreams, and there was one day where we were doing a few. We alternate between studios and places and spaces that we do it. But there was one day where it came together really fast. It was the day that we had Richard Lynch, and Anya, who produces these features with Michael, set it up at a studio we'd never tried before, and me and my cameraman Buzz show up. And it's actually like a music rehearsal studio, like where bands rehearse.
Oh,
And we're in a room where there's amps and drums, and we're supposed to move everything aside. And the other thing is, it's not soundproof. I mean, it's the middle of the afternoon. So if any band is jamming one room over, you're kind of hear them regardless. Wow. So, all right. So there's that awkward obstacle, first of all. And we're like, all right, well, we got to make this work. And then Richard Lynch showed up. And I'm a big fan. I mean, Bad Dreams and tons of stuff that I've seen. Buzz and I were not prepared for how emotional and difficult he was going to be. Oh. So he sat us down, and I would say I'll put it to you this way. There's about 2.5 minutes of footage of him in that documentary. But we shot for like 90 minutes.
Yeah, the thing is, I, again, without mentioning names, Michael has told me stories of how much footage has been cut from other talent sometimes that, and that's how it goes. Sometimes in your editing thing, you have a flow. Some people are more ADD than others. It is but like I said, that's where the fans please.
The point is, trust me. The point is, we try, or they try to get the guests. If we're working on it on the side, we try. if they're not on there, I swear it's a good reason.
Right. Well,
there's a legitimate reason why.
The other thing too is sometimes, talent, you would think, again, without mentioning names, you would be like, we have to keep within a budget. I mean, the thing is, we'd love to do even more bells and whistles, but we know what the sales will be like. We have to balance it for that. And sometimes certain talent will come to the table who may be an actor or an actress who hasn't done anything in years. And then they ask for something so obscene that you're just like, what? We can't pay this.
Right.
We'd like to, but somebody who's more famous than you on our documentary didn't even ask for that.
Right.
Like, there's that, we have to make those decisions sometimes,
right.
and
Do you have, is there a title, I don't know if you can even say, like a dream acquisition that you would love, personally, a movie you love?
Yes.
Dish.
Curtains.
Curtains. Yeah.
Wow.
Curtains would be great.
Has that ever been released to DVD?
It's been released in one of those cheapy 8-packs or 4-packs or whatever with a terrible transfer. And I don't even, it's no better than a bootleg VHS.
Yeah, I have a crappy bootleg of it.
It is one of those underrated films. We get requests a lot for it. But it is owned by, the rights right now are owned by the same people who have Prom Night. There's actually a petition going around trying to get them to get it to license to us. We're trying, but a dream project would be to get Curtains. Mm-hmm. Also Blood Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, Blood Beach would be great.
Best cover ever, right?
Blood Beach.
Both those titles are in the book I'm writing.
Cool.
So I'm in the middle of a book on forgotten films that'll be coming out in the fall, and both those titles are in there.
Great cover. I always love that.
They truly are, and it's funny that you're writing a book on that because we try to give, yes, everybody knows what a Halloween and those kind of movies are that we put out, but not everybody knew Deadly Blessing or Death Valley or The Nest or some of these other sort of lower tier ones. We're putting out Hospital Massacre this year and Schizoid.
Wow.
These are two early
Yeah.
80s films that, you may have remembered in the VHS stores, but like totally forgotten now. And now we're going to put them out.
Yeah.
But if we're talking mostly about nostalgia right now. What about modern films? Like, are you guys also, obviously you've done a couple, but is that part of the plan?
Well,
going forward?
the thing is, Scream Factory was always meant to be just retro. Okay. But Shout Factory is acquiring some contemporary horror films. We have one from Chiller Films called Dead Souls that was on their network.
Yeah, I saw that cover.
We have Cockneys versus Zombies, which is a import one that has gotten a lot of good buzz over there. We're going to be releasing that in limited theatrical later on this year. My point of telling you all this is that those titles are naturally going to fit into just a Scream Factory line. Some fans are worried that we're going to go, quote, Anchor Bay. And do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of like, well, we're going to lose our focus and we're just going to bring in directed video,
as
contemporary
stuff,
and that's it. That's not really no one should worry about that. Meaning that there's a home for the contemporary stuff, which will be in Scream. It doesn't make sense to keep it in the Shout brand anymore when we have a horror base. But Cliff McMillan, who acquires this stuff, and myself, we're the two big fans and drivers of this. We're fans. We're retro fans, and we like that stuff. So
because you guys can be the gold standard, like Criterion. You can be like, we're the Criterion of genres.
I actually said that on Twitter. I was like, they're the Criterion of horror.
We are definitely very grateful when we hear that kind of stuff. It sort of bowls us over, I mean, I'll be honest, sitting here, even talking to you guys right here and being asked to join is like humbling to me. I mean,
what it is though? Look at the covers. I'll tell you, the difference is it's effort. That's all it is. All it comes down to is, hey, this is somebody who cared about us, cared about what you want, put time into it, gave you something different, something new. To me, that's the big difference because a lot of people can release DVDs.
I had a couple of quick questions. I just because I'm curious, and I'm sure some of our fans would like to know a little bit more about how Scream Factory works. But can you talk a little bit about the acquisition process? Like how do you go about finding certain titles? I mean, do you have a working relationship with some of the studios, like say Universal, for example, and then say, hey, is Halloween 2 and 3 available? Like, how does that all work?
I wish, again, I wish Cliff McMillan was here.
Yeah.
He's the guy who actually acquires it and produces the DVD, but we do collaborate on the stuff. He's really the driver on that. Yes, we do have some existing relationships with some of the studios you mentioned because of other deals that we've done, TV shows and some other films.
You guys put out Gary Shandling. I'm such a huge fan of it.
We did.
And Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah.
And for me, before the Scream Factory came in, we had the Roger Corman stuff.
Yeah,
and for me, I was like, we put out Small Wonder. That was one of the first titles I worked on.
Is that
I was
the
like,
one with the robot Vicky girl?
Yes.
ridiculous,
Oh my gosh.
awful show, which I was like, I'm so glad we're putting it out.
Is Corman's work was really the backbone to get this started, right? Like the success of releasing those?
You know,
You guys did, what is the one that I'm thinking of? Larry
Sanders.
Yeah,
we did that too. Yeah. You know, we have relationships with other studios, but we don't have them with all. So we get a lot of requests for people like, can you put out Creepshow? I'm like, that's Warner Brothers. Chances for us getting that are 0 to none. They just don't sublicense their films out like that. It's not knocking them. It's just that's their practice.
Yeah.
We'll get titles requested that Lionsgate has. We don't have a relationship with them. That's not to say in the future those things might open up. You never know. Scream Factory, again, continues and becomes more successful. Who knows? The market may change. The studios may want the advances that we will give to their properties. I don't want to ever say that nothing is never, but you know, on the smaller titles, it's a little harder. You know, there's other Synapse, Code Red, you know, some other independents that put out some stuff that honestly, thank God for them, because you know, the projections on those might not make it in our projection meetings, and you know, it may be a little different. You know, it's not an easy answer, as you can tell. Probably going around, and Cliff probably would answer it a little better, but you know.
But I mean, I think it starts out that it's not like, you know, someone that's trying to acquire a title because like, oh, we can make so much money off this. I really think it comes down to the fact that the guys at Shout Factory, and I can attest to this because they put out Psycho Legacy.
Right.
And when I met you guys, I'm like, holy crap, these guys are real fans. Like they want to, you know, they want to see the stock. They want to put out these titles. So I think part of it is like, I think the enthusiasm and passion from you guys shows because you want to put these movies out. It's not like, obviously you want to make money, but it's not like, holy crap, we're going to make a ton off of Terror Train. Like that's going to make us millionaires. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, so the doors are not being kept open because of Terror Train. We do have a title at Shout called My Little Pony. You know, those are the stuff. But, you know, the thing is these titles do add up. They do make money, and you know, some more than others. You know, let's just say that Death Valley is probably not going to blow anybody away, but like we performed on something like They Live or Halloween 3, you know,
to balance it all.
You know, like I said, Cliff and I will look at lists from other studios. We'll see requests. We'll sort of vet it out a little bit, coming from our fan perspective. Also coming from like, who could we get for talent? What deserves it? You know, a little bit more collectors and Blu-ray. You know, there's definitely a dialogue that goes.
Is there a quota? Is there like, hey, we're going to try to do 2 a month or 10 a year?
There's not that right now. I will say 2013 is the year of fear for us, to coin a phrase, because we have so many coming out this year. And guys, I haven't even announced the stuff that's coming out from September on, and some of that stuff is really big. And so the fans right now are already like feeling like, oh my God, we literally have on our Facebook page people like, just take my wallet. You're going to really feel it past September because we have a lot more coming, which is great.
Nice.
You know,
it is great.
As if from a fan, it gets me so excited. I mean, I got to tell you, you know, when we get our first samples in, I will literally be at the front of the office, kind of looking around for that package. I'm like, I know I've been working on it forever, but then it's like, oh, it's the burning. And then I look at it and I take the slipcase off and I reverse it and I put the original and I pop it in at home. And I'm like, I got to be one of the first. But it's so.
And you totally posted a picture of that burning test print, didn't you? Yeah.
I do try to take my enthusiasm and excitement about this stuff, which is genuine, and parlay it into my marketing efforts. You know what I mean? It's a balance sometimes. I still have to put on a business hat at time and mind the store. But like, it's so funny. I feel like it was meant to sort of
do this
right now in my life. It's very weird. I mean, I'll just leave it at this. I'm working on The Fog, and The Fog is my favorite film of all time.
That's awesome.
We're not talking like favorite horror film or favorite John Carpenter film. I've seen this movie hundreds of times.
Wow.
The fact that I'm marketing it, looking at it creatively, making some decisions on it, and being involved in it.
That's cool.
I'm like, universe, thank you.
It's pretty amazing. And one other thing, if we can touch on, and it's not an easy question. Sorry, guys. But it's like in the last couple of years, it just seems that the DVD market has kind of, gone down the tubes, for lack of a better term.
It has. There's been a quick rush to release as many titles as you can, and to release them in mass. And I think that we see that like from a lot, like cheesy flicks is one that drives me crazy because they just rush out these obscure titles that really deserve a much better treatment than they get.
Yeah. Right. But the point being is that when DVD was a new thing, and I think we were all really excited by Anchor Bay for putting out all these Argento films and things like that. It was an excitement because we were finally getting these movies on digital video disc.
Right.
And now where everyone's saying, Blu-ray hasn't taken off as quickly as we wanted, or DVD's dead or whatever, I feel like there's a little shimmer of hope because there's obviously companies like Severin and all that, but Scream Factory, these are kind of like, I'm excited for, Phantasm 2. And I own most of these movies already, but there's a little bit of excitement for it. So I was wondering if you could just comment a little bit on the business side of things, like how is it getting a little better, at least in terms of Blu-ray, or is it more of a collector's market? I equate this kind of to vinyl. There's people love music, people buy digitally, but there's always going to be that hardcore base that has to have it on vinyl. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's who's buying these.
I would say that again, it is a collector's market. And this is where Shout Factory is very fortunate because a lot of the stuff that they put out, even if it's non-horror, it speaks to collectors, and which is good. The thing is, people have been saying for years, digital streaming, that's what's going to take over. I'm sorry, but people like to hold a Blu-ray or a DVD in their hand. They like to look at it. They like to open it up. They like to put it on their shelves. They like to do that. That's what collectors like to do. You can't do that with a digital download. You can't do that with stuff. And
streaming's great for stuff that you don't want. Right. Streaming, I don't know if this is going to be good.
Streaming is like Netflix streaming. It's like, I want to watch this or rent it or a TV show or something like that. Something
and then
that
it's gone.
And then it's gone. It's sort of evaporated. Right. With these films, and they speak to, fans that have seen these movies for years and years, going back to the 80s. They remembered it in VHS. They want to own it. They want to hold it, and that's good. My goal is to get as much, one of the reasons why the Facebook and Twitter thing is a huge initiative for me is the more traffic I can drive there, the more likes, the more engagement I can get. I am hoping that that translates to sales, because basically what's going to keep us going is more and more and more sales. And we want to be able to show that to the president of our company and stuff like that and say, hey, let's keep acquiring this stuff. It's good.
And it's interactivity. So what you're not just saying, I want them to like us and buy it. You're also saying, I want to hear what they want us to put out next. Right. And that's a really strong.
Well, believe me, they tell me even before I ask.
Right. I've got a gun under here and I want the stuff released badly.
Right,
so.
Yes. And believe me, I hear them. But all in a good way. I would say that, people have been trying to, the industry has been trying to say the death of this kind of stuff for a while. It's not dead yet. I don't think DVD and Blu-ray is dead. I do think in the horror community, though, DVDs have taken a huge slide and Blu-rays have taken a huge up.
They got cheaper. That was the big thing.
Well, yeah, but people are also, fans of this stuff. They want the film to look as best as it's ever going to look. And that's where Blu-ray comes in. Now, there was a noticeable difference when we went from VHS to DVD. Everybody saw that.
Yeah.
Some people didn't see so much of the difference between DVD and Blu-ray. But when you get used to Blu-ray for a while, you can see a difference then from DVD.
Yeah.
A lot of the people in the horror fans want everything on Blu-ray. Not everything we're going to be able to be put out can be on Blu for financial considerations. We don't have HD masters. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I would say that Blu-ray within the community is it's much more of a draw. Mm-hmm. I would say out of our sales, I'll take, for instance, Phantasm 2, because we had to release it both as a DVD and a Blu-ray. I would say right now it's like 80-20%, 80 Blu-ray, 20 DVD might even be 90-10.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ball is back, but it should have been he is bowling. That's where you went wrong. You would have had a spike. Brad Miska, can you hear me? He is bowling. You would have bought that.
Did somebody before the show? Did somebody want to talk about Ninja 3? Just
Yes.
because I want to make
that
sure
movie is so batshit
Okay,
crazy.
I have never seen Ninja.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Oh my God.
Rebecca,
I
will
haven't
say
seen
this.
Ninja 1 and 2.
I have never seen it either, but I am so excited for this movie. I'm waiting for a transfer to come in because it is about an aerobics instructor, telephone worker who's possessed by an evil ninja, and she's all the trailer and the things that I've seen online. She's all like exorcist out, and I'm like, what were they thinking?
Oh,
What
yeah.
is this?
Oh wait, have you not seen it yet?
No,
like the whole
That's
movie.
the plot of
No.
a Shaw Brothers
It's a
film.
major WTF movie.
Oh my
like
God.
The
That's why I
possession
wanted-
scene
that's
where
what-
she's turning, and you're just like, whoa, I don't even.
See, that's like I can't even begin to tell because
You've seen it?
Well, I
I've seen
did.
it.
I think I could.
Oh,
say-
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
I moderated the commentary with the director
Okay.
that's going to be on the Shout Factory release, and I watched it. I had heard of it, but I was like, I don't know if I know this movie. So I watched it in its entirety like the day before I went to do the commentary with the director. It is the most batshit crazy movie
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
you
I
will
love
ever
it.
see. I mean, it doesn't even waste any time. The first 10 minutes is like this evil ninja killing like 100 people.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
ridiculous. Like it takes like 100 cops to gun him down, and he still doesn't die. And then he possesses this hot chick, aerobics
So wait, is he
instructor.
a ninja and a sorcerer, or is it just implied that all ninjas are magical?
He does some kind of thing to get in her soul, into her body somehow.
Like you do, and I'm so confused by this concept.
It's just
I have-
sneaky.
then-
It's just sneaky.
It's more of an action.
What's funny is that it's called Ninja 3, but it's not really a sequel. The
It's
Ninja
not the third
films
part,
are
no.
and it was released in theaters like 1984. It did decent business, and it had never been on DVD or Blu-ray before. And Cliff had it on the list from MGM, and I was like, I have always wanted to see this. And when it finally became a reality, I was like, oh my God, this is what a great, like exactly what you said.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
a WTF.
It would be a great midnight movie with
Oh,
an
yeah.
audience for sure.
I really,
Wow.
honestly, those are the kind of movies that I hope come out and people like find. Those are those lower tier titles that we were talking about. They're not the Halloween 3s and they're not that They Live, but it's like, you know,
You should let us,
forgotten.
in association with Scream, we should like do a thing where we like when one of them's about to come out, where we host a screening at somewhere like the New Beverly.
Oh my God, I
and
would
we
love
all
that.
we like moderate something, and you guys get behind. It would be so fun, like a film like that no one's like really seen.
Yeah.
I only discovered that film. I was trying to do a top 5 weirdest exorcism movies, and I came across that Teenage Exorcist, a few
Yeah.
others that I was like, what are the
one thing, you know,
I thought
it's-
there were sequels.
It's
to it,
funny
but-
that you mentioned screenings. We do not have, for the most part, theatrical exhibition rights. So we'll often have a lot of people say, "Oh, can we do a screening of this? Can we do a
And they
screening?"
can't.
And we'd love. Oh
Of
my
course,
God,
yeah.
I'd love nothing more than to have screenings of all of our films and all that. But that is again one of those sort of budgetary kind of things that we don't have. But thankfully, those places like New Beverly
Do them
and
anyway,
whatever have relationships with the studios
Yeah.
and they're able to do that. We've had talks with some across the nation, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But that to me feels like a Miami Connection or,
Right.
Yeah.
or The Room or
Right.
something very Troll
Oh.
2. Like, I mean, it would be.
It is.
That's, and I can't wait to see it. It's in like in a couple weeks. I'll get to see it. And
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
super jazzed.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
They
That
do-
sounds
and they-
awesome.
and
Why
they-
Teenage Exorcist? Why? That's only for the Lisa fans. Dead silence in here. At home,
Can you
somebody
do
who's
it?
seen The Room is laughing, but that
Can
movie.
you do
I
it as
love The
Dolph
Room.
Lundgren?
So there
What's
you
that?
go.
Can you do it as Dolph Lundgren?
You're tearing me apart.
Yeah.
There
You're
you go.
tearing me apart.
And quick spoiler to the commentary on Ninja 3. For fans at home, I did thank the director for breaking 2 during the commentary.
Oh, he did break into.
I was like,
Electric
because that
Boogaloo?
same girl is
Yes.
in it.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, on behalf of fans everywhere, thank you for
Rebecca,
breaking
do you
2.
know Breaking 2?
Electric Boogaloo. Oh yeah.
I give you props.
That was one of the ones my parents bootlegged. We had a copy of it.
When do your
Breaking
parents
2.
get out of jail? Just by the way. And dear government, their address is somewhere in Virginia. Go get them now.
They've swapped from stealing VHS to stealing cable. I won't even get into the
Now they're just
details. I love
bootlegging.
my parents.
Bootleggers.
funny.
I guess we should move into news, but the news is relevant to you too because we were talking about it before. This
So the big news
Wizard.
thing, not necessarily the big news thing, but the big debate with horror fans this week has been the Wizard big box covers. And so for those of you guys who don't know the backstory, Full Moon back from like 1980 to 1989, and I might be slightly off on my dates, but I think that's close, released this series of films called Wizard Video. And there were some major titles included in that, like Headless Eyes, Virgin of the Living Dead. There was a whole bunch of them. And supposedly a couple of months ago, Charles Band, who owns the company, found a gigantic box, actually multiple gigantic boxes in this mysterious giant warehouse he has of these original big box VHS. And he found the original boxes, not the VHS tape, just the boxes. And so then supposedly somebody told him, hey, those are worth money. People buy those online for $50. So he did reprints of all of the VHS tapes and put them in the original big boxes and started selling them on the Full Moon website for $50 a piece. And so, of course, the fans go crazy and they're like, I'm getting me one of them. And people start buying them. But immediately people start picking up on inconsistencies. So when you're looking at an original Headless Eyes big box as compared to the, quote, supposed old one that he had that he just sent you, there's some differences that fans have highlighted.
Well,
Now,
right off the bat, you pointed out something interesting that I didn't know. You said he found the boxes, but they're recreating the VHS
they
now?
recreated the VHS.
All right, then it's not an original VHS. That's you know.
No, the VHSs have been completely recreated. It's just the boxes that are supposedly the originals from the 80s.
Wow.
So then people, I mean, like
It'd be easy to
diehard,
fake.
yeah,
Yeah.
diehard collectors are starting to shell out, $50 a piece. But one of the interesting things that has been pointed out is when Wizard did their original run from 1980 to 1989, their logo changed multiple times. Sometimes, the W in Wizard would be in red, and other times it would be in white. And then, sometimes the Wizard would be red himself, and then he would change to white in a couple of years and things like that. So the logo was altered. However, on every single one of these so far, the logo has been exactly the same. And the logo has been different on some of them from the original releases. So some people are pointing at that and saying, obviously, it's a fraud. The other one is
or they just printed them all once and put them. They got lost. They got shipped into the back and got
That is what
misplaced,
Charles is saying in his defense, is that no, it's not that these aren't originals from the 1980s. We did various printings. It's not that Headless Eyes only had one logo. Headless Eyes logo changed depending on what year we printed it in. So that's what Charles is saying in defense. Other people are saying that the cardboard is different, that the cardstock is different, and that it's a lower quality grade now than it was in the original 80s. So people are going back and forth.
I don't believe
with
any of
this
this nonsense.
Yeah. And at the same time, Charles is coming out and saying, no, it's legit. But now the horror community is saying, fuck you, I'm not paying $50.
He would never
for a
do something just for
VHS.
money. I don't believe it. Charles Band of all people.
So this has become a huge debate in the horror community this week, largely because VHS are considered collectible. And, some people are now saying, Charles Band is, kind of stealing money from the horror community, people who don't always have a lot of money to begin with.
But if it still looks badass, it looks badass.
I know. I'm still
Tell
debating.
I guess.
Tell them to save their money and buy Scream Film.
Yes.
It makes so much more sense.
I would rather have a nice pristine Blu-ray copy of an old title than
a
I mean,
VHS.
the bottom line is this. I don't think anybody in their right mind should have to pay $50 to $60 for
No.
any VHS. I don't care how collectible it is or whatever. That Mike Williamson immediately countered me saying,
he did.
if it's worth $50, it's worth $50.
We were debating this on my Facebook page today.
But now that doesn't even hold valid. It's if the original from 1980 was worth $50, that's something. But this is a box, and he's copying the VHS of it and putting it in there. So I think it's a complete scam.
But this, well, let's talk about scam. It also opens to something we all love, which is like the Mondo posters, which is the same thing. Like they make a beautiful poster, sells out in a second, and then people 2 minutes later are selling it for $200.
Yeah, I mean, I don't subscribe to that either.
Yeah, no,
they're great.
They're beautiful, but it pisses me off.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to drop $50 for a
Twilight
poster.
Time does that too with their limited edition blues.
You know what? I'm really pissed because the one time I bought one of theirs was Night of the Living Dead, the remake, the 1990.
Oh boy, and
I haven't had the heart to even put it on because I've heard
because of all the scandal on that one.
of how terrible the transfer is.
Yeah. It's too bad.
And they're not cheap. They're like $35-$40 or whatever to get this limited edition.
It's not cheap. Being a horror fan isn't cheap. When you go to conventions and you're now paying $20, $25 for an autograph now.
It's $20 to park at Days of the Dead this
Okay,
weekend.
so you're paying there to
well.
park. You're paying money for your autograph. You might see a poster. You might see something you want to buy. Dropping a lot of money. So I can understand people getting like wondering if it really truly is a original, because if that's what you pay for and you find out it's a fraud, you're going to get upset. But.
Yeah. And supposedly he has limited editions of each of these. But another debate has been he's only releasing the popular titles. Like there was, hundreds of titles in this Wizard video line, but for some reason
that is interesting.
He only found the box covers for the really popular
ones.
You
that
mean
sounds
so
weird.
is Zombie and I Spit on Your Grave?
Yeah.
But
Totally.
things like Student Union, which, like people like me watched, but nobody else in the world ever saw. Strange, he didn't find a box cover for that one.
Right.
Interesting.
So feasibly, he could be just making video copies and selling them, which is, it's for an exorbitant amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Look, here's the thing. No matter what anyone says about Charles Band, it's like he produced so many damn movies that I love. I went to interview him
not
once.
Love him for that.
Yeah, we did an interview with him at the Full Moon Studios, and like you just go in his office and see the front covers of all the VHSs of like all the Full Moon stuff, and then and you're just like, I can't believe he made all these freaking movies. So like,
he's been around a long time.
Yeah, so there's a level of respect and admiration because I rented all those movies and I own multiple copies.
And you want more haunted Bong films,
obviously.
Yeah.
He's Tourist Trap and Parasite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So
those
there's
are,
that.
Those are my faves.
Tourist Trap.
Tourist Trap is
I love Tourist Trap.
So that was the big hard debate online this week. I'm anxious to see how it plays out because Charles is now just on Fangoria yesterday. He released a rebuttal video. Back to what all of these people are saying. So definitely check out the video. It's gotten absolutely crazy.
I will say this only just because, from Scream Factory, we're sometimes on the end of why didn't you do, scandals in the horror community can pop up very quickly.
And fans get passionate about them.
Very, we'll see it show up on other forums really quickly and everything like that. I mean, everything. Yeah, it's hard to be in a position of rebuttaling, with tact. Some other people don't rebuttal with tact. I don't know what Charles was, but
it was surprisingly
he was pretty
well composed.
Okay,
He's a very well composed gentleman.
Polygraph. Polygraph.
The fans demand it.
It's the only way.
You definitely have to walk a fine line on how you respond on that, because the thing is that those fan bases may be 5% of the whole 100 or everything like that, but they're very vocal and they can
Well, a more serious question is, could they have actual right to sue him if in fact they proved that these were fakes and he was selling? And so I don't think, if I was him and he's in a position of pretty decent power and makes pretty good money, why you would take that risk?
I agree.
To open yourself up to a lawsuit would be crazy. Yeah. So on that level, I'm like, I'd probably believe him. That's, because you could. I think that would be legal grounds.
But I will tell you, like these scandals that I've seen of recent, will not end until somebody proves beyond a reasonable doubt that it is a fake or not. Like there's people won't stop.
Polygraph.
Somebody's going to carbon date it.
Right, totally.
Yeah. Wait, I'm calling you out right now, Mr. Band. Polygraph live on our show. Prove your innocence. Prove our childhood was not wrong.
Polygraph. We can't afford one.
Well, we'll make beeping sounds. Justin's good at sound design. You'll see. Yeah.
So to rush through the other news, Lords of Salem comes out in a couple of weeks, so we'll be keeping you posted on that. I don't think Rob liked it, but
I have seen it and I have no comment as of yet. I need to think about it a little more.
So that will be coming up. Insidious 2 got bumped up a week to September 13th.
Whoop, whoop.
WB just signed on a Bermuda Triangle film yesterday. So I know. That was my reaction.
Well, Triangle was fun. We talked about that on here before.
Yeah, Triangle I liked, but I'm kind of intrigued what...
Oh, it's a show.
No, this is a film.
Oh, film, sorry.
So I'm kind of intrigued on what Warner Brothers will do with it, because they tend to...
Is it from Dark Castle?
No.
No, I think they're done.
Okay.
No crazy CG effects in this one.
No ghost ship.
And then the last thing I got is Jamie Foxx is now writing, directing, and producing his own horror show for Sci-Fi.
What?
Exactly.
All right.
Let's go back to Charles Band. I don't want to talk about Jamie Foxx on Sci-Fi.
And can I also add that Bates Motel got picked up for a second season?
I did see that.
So you say that with the conviction of someone who wrote, produced, and directed the show. I mean, you're way too excited.
I am very excited. Actually, that's my screensaver right there.
Oh, okay.
Which is
wow.
Norma
That's some
and Norman.
dedication.
Yeah, I love this.
I don't know if I'm still watching it because I like it or if I know that you like it so much, so I'm just going to keep going with it.
Yeah,
and see where
I'd
it goes.
give you
gotta
crap
catch
if
up.
you didn't watch
I'm going to keep going.
That's one of those things I don't watch around my parents because I'd have to explain too much.
It's a little icky for parents. Yeah, for sure.
Once as the show ends, hey, tell us on our page, and then we'll report back what you would like to see most as a possibility, a Blu-ray on Scream. We'd be curious to know. I'm sure he gets it a lot. So I know for me, the stuff would be. I don't know who owns the stuff.
Oh, the stuff
Larry
is.
Cohen?
Well, I know Larry,
the
but
stuff is New World, and I think Image currently has the rights for that stuff.
Okay.
For the stuff.
because that fits in really well visually. I can see the cover already with you guys.
And it would be a good fit.
Yeah,
I
it
would
would be
love to
fun.
get that one. There's a lot of stuff in the New World camp that would make for good Scream titles, but we don't have
But
those.
those would be fun, a fun point. And yeah, we'll have to have you back on it.
I'd love to come
and
back.
Cliff,
This
because
is
we could
very
do a
funny.
whole different conversation.
I want you
Yeah.
guys to hunt down the pit.
Oh yeah.
I love the pit because it is just so damn stupid.
Yeah,
And
completely.
When he pushes the old lady into the pit,
And then
That
his
was-
babysitter. Yeah,
it's
it's
sad.
That was
And
on a
teddy
double
bear
bill with
Hellgate.
Hellgate. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
See,
on
you
DVD.
guys, I'm a legit fan. I know.
Yeah, this
There's
is where it
the
is.
stuff, yeah.
This is a good test. If you
Yes.
can hold your own in this room, you're good.
Yeah,
You're good to
yeah.
go.
I try to. I've done my homework.
Can you hold your own, Mr. Charles Band? We will see on a future episode. We just done called you out.
I gotta find a copy of Body Shop for everybody.
Oh, yeah, I wanna see
we'll
it.
see.
Totally.
We'll do I Come in Peace and Body Shop at your place on
Deal.
VHS.
Deal.
So just quickly, coming up on our show next week, we have the director, Zan Cassavetes, who made a really interesting documentary in the past. She has a new... Almost it looks a little Jean Rollin.
I call it Eurotrash.
Yeah, Eurotrash, Kiss of the Damned, a vampire film. Great, best poster of the year. Like, I don't know what the film's going to be like. The poster's gorgeous, throwback, 70s looking poster. It's really cool.
Yeah.
She's going to be joining us. She is the daughter of the two of the most famous independent filmmakers of all time, John Cassavetes and Jenna Rollins. So to me, that's really exciting on a art nerd level as well as a horror level. I get both things next week,
Yeah.
We're getting naked next week. It's going to be fun. I don't know where that
Oh,
comes
and Monster Palooza is this weekend.
Yes.
I assume we're all going, right?
I'm not.
You know what? Why
I'm a
not?
mom now. Well,
Oh, I
you
forgot about
can't
that
take
already.
newborns out for like the first couple of weeks because
Leave
they don't
Dave
have
at
any
home.
shots. So yeah, I'd either have to like ditch my husband and be like, I'm going to have fun at Monster Palooza, honey. You stay here and watch the spewing, crapping infant.
I don't know what's wrong with that. It sounds like a plan.
I know.
I'll be there. I do love Monster Palooza. It's great.
Yeah. So anyone coming down on Saturday, I'm moderating the panels for Hatchet 3 and Holliston. So,
And Saturday night, I don't know if it ties in, but that's Strictly Splatter guys. They're going to do another Cinema Obscurity at Jump Cut.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
that. Which one?
Cannibal Cookout?
I never heard of that.
I've never
All right.
seen that.
I believe it's Cannibal Cookout. I hope I'm not brutal. It's the reason it's significant to them, Strictly Splatter, the website, is it was the film that made them create the website. They saw that one and they're like, we need to do a whole website dedicated to these ones that people are like, our reaction just now, I don't know if I've heard of that one. So that's what they're doing.
That's the director of Whaley House that runs that, right?
Yeah, he runs
Okay.
it. And they have some really fun. The following one, they're going to have the cinematographer of an old Dorothy Wishman film. And a film that's never been seen before, and they're going to bring the cinematographer out from Florida, and they're going to talk about
I
it.
love Doris Wishman.
That's fun.
I'm actually I'm in a documentary on her. I have to finish taping this week.
Oh, yeah.
So
She's interesting. Yeah,
I have
she's
a
good.
book out on Doris Wishman that you should read called "Fondling Your Eyeballs."
I'll leave you with a Doris Wishman quote. My favorite filmmaking quote of all time is Doris Wishman, and she said, "When I die, I'll be making movies in hell." And I love that quote.
That is
And that was an 80-year-old woman saying that. That's so badass. I mean, like,
I when I was finishing up part of my PhD, I did this feminist class, and everybody was writing about like Judith Butler and all these heady feminists, and I wrote about Doris Wishman.
Yeah.
Just because chick making porn in the 70s, I love it.
porn? Well,
She
kinda.
did. No, she
Softcore.
did some.
Oh, she did some actual porn.
Most of the stuff in the 60s was what roughies, where like
Yeah,
you
the
just
roughies,
beat the
yeah,
crap
yeah,
out of them instead of sex. Like
They
it
were
gets
ugly.
right up to the sex, and then you just beat the snot out of everybody.
No, I couldn't even watch those. The roughies are ugly.
Yeah, and then she's got a whole like nudist line where it's like girls playing volleyball behind with strategically placed bushes. It was very Austin Powers like, where you didn't actually see anything, but they were both naked the whole time. So, but that's not horror.
That's not horror. even Charles Band just turned off our podcast. He's like, well,
You don't
they're
get
done mocking
nudity
me.
if it's not gory. We don't talk about it.
So what's the next, as we go out, what's the next release, the one that you're allowed to announce? What's the absolutely coming up?
Let's see.
Is it from
Coming
now?
up April 30th, Vampire Lovers on Blu-ray
yes.
for the first
Hell yeah.
time at Hammer Film. People are excited about that. In June, we got Ninja 3, The Domination on
Yes.
June 11th. We have on June 18th, we have The Howling, Joe Dante classic, first time on
Original.
Blu-ray.
Nice.
And Life Force, Toby Hooper's
Nice.
vampire
Oh, yeah,
Vampires
love
in
it.
Space.
So fun.
In July, we have on the 30th, we have The Fog,
Okay,
Sweet.
that's just going to
I've
be
already
huge.
told
That's
it.
going to be huge for you guys. It's going to be huge.
All I can say is the extras that we have planned on that. There is one in particular that is just going to knock everyone's socks off in the horror community.
Cool.
You don't even have to be a fan of The Fog to like one of the extras we have on there.
Ooh.
So I'll just leave it at that. We have the Incredible Melting Man.
Oh yeah,
That's
I always
cool.
love the effects in that film. They're
Where I can't say the extra that we have on that one. Damn it! Oh, I forgot. In June 25th, we have Dead Souls, chiller film, one of the contemporary ones. In August, we got Swamp Thing.
Oh, cool.
Coming
cool.
to Blu-ray for the first time. I mentioned that, I'll just say this right now because I'll be announcing it soon. Hospital Massacre and Schizoid will be a double feature.
All right.
Blu-ray DVD double feature. I never thought ever that those films
would be
see
together.
the light of DVD, let alone Blu-ray. That's and I mentioned the Amityville trilogy Blu-ray box set that's going to come out sometime before Halloween. I'm good for right now. Oh, we still have coming up. People are wondering when Day of the Dead. We've already announced that one.
Yeah.
And Night of the Comet. They're still coming.
Night of the Comet. So fun.
They will be in the fall. But I would say that people will probably want to keep aware of next month when we will be announcing some really big ones, hopefully.
Are you going to go back to, for a while there, you were announcing 2 every Friday on the Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, yes, the Fear Fridays.
Yeah.
That was always very exciting, and it got us a lot of attention on that, and people want us to return to that. If we have enough, we might be able to do a mini run of that.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for one deal to sign in particular to be able to do that, which will have a slew of films on there to do it. But
Well, look out for Vampire Lovers. The film, Leonard Moulton says, a rather erotic hammer chiller. In his passive, bearded way.
Saucy of him.
Way to sell it, Leonard.
totally.
Well, guys, we will be back next week with some more horror goodness.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jeff, for coming in. Appreciate
yes,
it.
Thank you, guys.
Go like their Facebook page.
Oh,
And
thank
ours.
you.
And ours.
Yeah, we could use a few too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.